Welcome to Amazon Legends, where we have real stories about making it big on Amazon. Our guests are CEOs of large companies and entrepreneurs who became power sellers, also providers specializing in helping sellers, aggregators that acquire sellers, and former Amazonians will give us an insight from behind the scenes. Here is your host, Nick Uresin.
Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. My next guest today has been in creative design for over a decade. So she knows what she's doing, and she is today the creative director and co-founder of Principium, which is a branding agency for Amazon sellers. And when she's not working, she likes hiking, painting, reading, and family time with her two little kids. With that, everybody, meet my guest, Lauren Gonzales. Welcome to the show, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Nick, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, I always love having people like you who know what they are doing. And I'm just lucky because whoever I have, usually they've been around for a long time. So you can have a meaningful conversation. And today, what we're going to talk about is extremely valuable, which is something you are very good at. So tell us what that is.
Well, our specialty is branding Amazon sellers the right way.
Okay, so the definition of right way may be different for different people. So give us your version of the right way.
Well, that's really identifying their target audience and then using premium A+ content to help expand on that brand story to just deepen the relationship with the actual seller and between the seller and the buyer.
Okay, so I just heard you say a few keywords that catch immediately my attention. First of all, the audience, of course, is important, but you mentioned brand story. So, that you're not referring to some story that you're going to tell about the brand. You're talking about a specific brand story. So explain that to us first, what you're referring to.
So the story for a brand is how it communicates why it started, what its goals are, what its purpose in this world is, and it relates how it all intertwines to help solve the customer's problems. So it's not just about how great the brand is, it's about making the customer the lead or the hero in that story, because that's the purpose of a brand. Any company is not here just to be here to make money. We're here to help serve somebody else, a specific audience, no matter what business you're in.
Mm-hmm. And the brand story is on Amazon. For Amazon sellers, there is a special place to tell that brand story, right?
Right.
And tell us where that is.
So that is usually put right above the Amazon A+ content or premium content. And it's nice that Amazon has started to just grant more importance to that for sellers so that they can just more and more ways to make them more human as brands instead of just a third-party seller.
And so we're going to get into the premium A+ in a second. But
yeah,
for those who don't yet know about Premium A+, nor qualify for it, A+ is always available for brand registered sellers. And in the A+ content, there is a specific place to put your brand story, right? Because
yes,
it comes in modules. So share with us, give us some guidance on where people should go and put emphasis on putting their brand story.
So in the modules, it's hard when I'm not showing a screen or where it is exactly, but it allows you to write it in text format so that on mobile people can still read it. It can expand to be for desktop as well, but it allows you to put a picture of yourself, and in there it's a concise place for you to communicate what you're about, what your values are as a brand, and what you can help the customer with. It gives a bigger perspective than just on one product. and makes them realize that maybe there's more to the brand, there's a depth to it that can actually carry through to future products as well. So that's something that I really like that Amazon is doing for sellers.
Yeah, and for the listeners' benefit, it's, I mean, we can't do screen shares, nor this is a tutorial kind of thing, but just so that we kind of set the tone about, because this brand story is very important. This
Okay.
is, I believe it's module 7 of the A+ content. That's where you insert, right?
Yes, yeah, that's right. You could even include it. You could put your story in any of the different modules, essentially. I mean, it's up to the specific seller, because Amazon allows you to put a lot of text with any of the images. You could even have some of your brand story on an image, but you have to be really aware of the fact that the type needs to be big, because that shrinks down those images. They have to also be mobile friendly. So I don't advise putting too much text on the images themselves.
Yeah, because the image text on images don't get indexed to start with.
Exactly.
And also when you shrink it, it's not good to see. Okay, so I want to share something with you and then hear your take on it. So when I work with clients, I have this template called the definitions. And in the definitions, it's an Excel sheet that has several sections. And one section is, what are you selling? What is the tagline? It's one-liner. What are you selling? Even selling blankets, electric blankets, whatever. What is it? What is the product? The second one is, who is it for? So that's the audience. And then your competitive advantage. Why yours?
Yeah.
So, and there's a couple of other things. So this basically is something that I picked up many, many years ago. I did a workshop about positioning. This is called actually the positioning statement.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've taken this positioning statement components and translated them into these individual sections. So this happens like the first day we start working, and everybody's thinking, okay, we're going to talk about listings and this, that, yeah. And then I pull this thing up and we start talking positioning, and people get frustrated. They say, why are we doing this? And I say, this is the essence of everything. This is who you are selling to, and why your product is the one that people should choose. And by the way, what is it? Because people get into these long. So I tell you, one of the things that people struggle with is defining their audience. So I asked them, so who is your customer? Say, okay, females between the ages of 30 and 50 earning. This is our audience.
Right.
You're giving me demographics. So now share with us how you define the audience for Amazon sellers.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process, tell me what you think about my methodology.
Yeah, I love that you're thinking with positioning. This is something that so many brands don't even know what that means. And I want to just give a very brief explanation with some examples of positioning. So positioning is the place in the market of a business, of your brand. So as an example, you have a company like McDonald's, and you compare them to something that is a little more like upscale, like a steakhouse, right? Like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. So that's a chain in the US. I'm not sure if it's on the East Coast or not. And so one of them, McDonald's, is going to be expected to be cheap, fast, and not the greatest of quality. So their position, literally the location in this like overall chart that essentially could be imagined for all restaurants. So McDonald's is here, and then you have Ruth's Chris Steakhouse is up here. And their position is, it's for a different demographics, for a different target audience. They are meant to be a higher class, they're more expensive, they're higher quality, And people who are at the McDonald's, they're their target audience. They're looking for fast, cheap. They don't really care about the quality. Whereas somebody who's looking for an expensive dinner is going to go here. So it's all about, that's what, when you take into account what your product is, who it's for, what is the value of it, and what are your own brand values, who's it supposed to connect to, all of this plays a really big part in where are you supposed to be located on this positioning chart for your specific niche. So I just want to check in if that makes sense, just to start with.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There is
Okay.
something that also puzzles people is I ask them, who's your primary audience? Who's your secondary audience?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't have just one, right? So you have some of those that kind of byproducts that come out of your offering and that may appeal to a different group of people. So you have to define the primary audience and the secondary audience. So absolutely, I'm so glad you walked us through, because in fact, I remember almost like yesterday when I did the workshop, the gentleman who gave it, he said, okay, this is a 2-hour workshop. So it's going to start slow, but we're going to speed up. And by the end of it, you'll be out of breath and you won't be able to complete it. And it says, because this is significant amount of work that we will do in 2 hours, that is usually done over days. So, so in that process, he started talking about the audiences and everything else. So that's what I always try and make use of. So as far as your process, you walk us through how you go about defining that audience.
Sure. So let's take a toy brand for kids. So they're looking to have a whole line of toys for kids. And now first they need to define, okay, so who is going to be buying this product? Now, it's not going to be the kids. The kids are not going to be on Amazon, and most likely your budget is not going to be big enough to have ads and video ads on TV and such like that. So really the target audience is going to be the parents. And in this case, the secondary audience could be grandparents. It could be maybe schools, preschools that are looking to buy things for kids. So that's where I like how you said that about the secondary audience, because it's very true. There are a lot of different brands will have 2 different audiences that they need to think with. So, and after they have actually figured out, okay, so yes, it's parents, but where is this positioned in the overall scheme of all toy brands? Because there's hundreds or maybe even thousands of toy brands. So what's their angle? And maybe it's this specific one is eco-friendly, and it's used with recycled products that are used for this specific to make all their toys. And it's going to appeal to a specific segment of parents that really care about the environment, that are looking for something that is more sustainable for the environment and such, and they're willing to pay a little bit higher price because it's going to cost them more. So whereas you think, okay, I just want to have all parents everywhere. If you get more specific and show your values in your brand story, this is where the story comes into play, then you can appeal to that target audience very well. And you're going to reach them, be speaking to them instead of speaking to everyone. So does that make sense how that works?
Yeah. So, I mean, I like the way you are defining the audience. You're not going like gender, income.
No.
All about, who is it? Like you're selling to parents, you have grandparents, schools. And ironically, I have a client who does sell something for kids.
Oh.
And it's, of course, it's about the kids, but it's the parents. But guess who else is buying from this particular seller? Schools.
Oh.
So schools are actually placing orders and recommending to other schools, nonprofits that work with kids of different type, like maybe special, education kids. And So there's all kinds of different things. So you want to expanding on that audience definition is definitely a key. So this
Absolutely.
is where an important question comes in, and I want to see what you think about this. So
Yeah.
as you know, we don't want to limit ourselves to just something limited, but be as broad as possible in terms of our appeal. So how do you then deal with a situation where you want to be, like, for example, you want to be for parents, for grandparents, for schools, so you're going to have some things that appeal to all of them, but that kind of distributes the focus, right? So when somebody comes to the listing, they are seeing all bunch of things. Just to illustrate it a little bit more, I have a client, they sell masks. I'm not talking about COVID masks. These are like woodworkers and power sports and things like that. All different hospital workers, also iron workers. So they all wear masks, as part of their craft.
Yeah.
So they have all these in their definitions. So now, okay, I'm a woodworker. If I come along and I say, okay, I see stuff about dust masks, I mean, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some. So how do you juggle one against the other, be as broad as possible versus focus?
Yeah, great question. And obviously with a listing, you can't have, you're not going to divide it into different products for different segments under one parent listing. Most likely that's just not going to work unless it is a different product that is geared towards a preschool or whatever. But I feel the way to take advantage is to show in your infographics and in the A+ content, because show different uses. And that's where I've been very successful in working with sellers is actually illustrating it with images and visuals and showing the different usages. Have the primary use, the one that's going to get the most sales and is your main target audience, more prominent, but then follow up with another image that shows grandparents giving it as a gift, show it in a preschool, show it being used in maybe a doctor's office. That's even a whole other segment. So those different ways can help you just visualize very simply without having to then make it like where you're just talking about the features of the product. You're showing the actual usage, what problem it's solving for whoever's going to buy it. And, a grandparent goes to the listing or goes to Amazon looking for a high quality toy for a kid, for their grandkid. They see, oh, look, grandparents can give this to their kids. Just is a nice, tasteful thing added in there that just will hit that audience as well.
So what I'm hearing is you can illustrate that diverse ways to use this product in your pictures with lifestyle images or use cases.
Yeah.
And how about the keywords? Do you also I guess you're going to have to put all the keywords in your content so that they kind of go along with the pictures?
Yes. Keywords is not our specialty for Amazon specifically, so I don't get into the actual SEO when I'm working with clients, but we definitely are thinking with what are the keywords that people are going to be searching and what visuals, what things do we want to write on those images too? Because I'm really about not just packing every image on those listings with tons of text nobody's gonna read. You want to evoke an emotion that goes along with your brand, that connects with who it's intended to. And that's where the brand story and getting into the positioning is so important. Just like you said, starting with that, because it'll help to see themselves in that position and and relate to that. And so the keywords, yes, are important. But you could definitely, I think if you'd have it with kids presents, kids play toys, eco-friendly play activities, such like that. That's just not really my area, is not SEO.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, frankly, the keywords are instrumental, obviously, to bring you traffic. That's how you rank. But what makes the sale is the pictures, right?
The conversions, yes.
Yeah. So I'm glad you used the word conversion because I want to dig into this a little bit more because at the end of the day, it's all about conversion.
Yep.
So what converts is what we're looking for. So anything that converts is going to have a much bigger impact. So I had another guest on the show a while ago, and I put this question to him. So I said, it's a bit of a controversial subject, but we're talking about Amazon listing. So it's 21st century, and this is a diverse society. So therefore, you want to see the examples of that diversity. You know, that we see it in movies, we see it in commercials and blah, blah. And in some places, we see too much of it. They're just overdoing it. Yeah. But the point is, it's the diversity. So the diversity is there, and you want to have that appeal. So I said to him, so what do you do when you are creating these pictures? Do you demonstrate that diversity in the society across all the pictures? Or do you focus on one segment of it because that is where you're going to get most of the business? So what is your take on it? Then I'll tell you what he said.
Sure. I think that every brand, especially like you're saying in this day and age, they need to realize that their target audience is not based on a race. It's not based on a specific, that's not the right word, the economical status, unless they're trying to appeal to a specific, like it's a higher end product. But that is not going to affect the race or including diversity in the pictures. So what we have done and what is working very well is when we have like a kid product, for example, who we're talking about kid products right now, and as my example is we will have from different ethnic backgrounds, and 3 kids, they're different, and it will just relate to everyone. And I think that that's something that you're not necessarily appealing to a specific type of race when you're trying to attract. And I don't think that should be the target. And when you get too much into demographics, it's backwards. It's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to solve a problem with your products. You're showing you can solve the problem, and you want to appeal to anyone who needs it. So I think that it's not something that should be really, I feel like it should be embraced, and unless it's something specifically like that only works with that type of body product or body style, like specific hair products that specific ethnicity is going to have. So does that make sense? How my answer? I'm curious what he said.
Yeah, I hear you. So I'll tell you what he said. So he said, okay. He said, what problem is this product solving? And who are the group of people that are likely to have that problem the most?
Okay.
Those are the people you must put in the picture. Now, there is a good chance that pretty much anybody and everybody is likely to have that problem. But what is the percentage that is most likely to have? Because as you know, the pictures that you put with your listing is not there to show the product. What you're trying to do is have the shoppers see themselves using that product in that picture, right? So that's the idea. Or they see themselves advocating for that product because of what's in the picture. So that means making a connection through that picture. So his point was, who are the people that are most likely to have that problem that you are solving with your product, and then focus your pictures around that group. And then I said, well, how does that speak to the diversity? He said, well, and what does that accomplish? He said, well, first of all, this is what is going to maximize your conversion, because you have more people who are likely to need that product seeing themselves using the product, and therefore they buy. So it ups your conversion. And I said, well, how does that address the diverse approach? He said, then you put the diversity-based pictures, a broader audience, different segments. I'm not talking necessarily ethnicity. I'm talking like in general, it could be age, it could be anything.
Yeah. Okay.
So he said, put that diverse representation in your A+.
Okay.
That was his take. What do you think? What do you think?
I think that's workable. I think it'll vary a lot based on the product itself. It's hard to kind of say as a blanket, like this will always work in this way. When obviously it's a women's product, it's gonna be always women showing it. And I think for that case, if it's a product that works with any of women, whatever age, it should show it in use for those different age groups. I could see then using, like, if it's something that appeals to one specific one, having that very heavy in the listing and then showing examples as well in the A+. It really depends on the product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is funny you said something about the women's product. You're right. You can't really have a man selling a woman's product, but I'm telling you, men would buy a men's product sold by women all day long. No problem. So it doesn't work the same way.
Oh, well, it's funny though, when talking about that, I mean, I did a whole branding for a men's line, and I was actually talking to my husband a lot about it because it's men want to see themselves, see men that look cool, that look, elegant or whatever they want to be. And a lot of times for watch companies and for different like perfumes or colognes, they might have a woman in it showing, oh, this woman's attracted to the man because he's wearing the cologne or whatever it is. But there is still that point of, oh, the man wants to look cool. So the man is representing that.
Yeah. I mean, it's plus these days, everything is changing, people's, so this is what makes it very dynamic. So, okay, so we've covered identifying the audience, covered identifying the primary, secondary, and then telling the story through the pictures. So let's get into the premium A+. First, share with us how you get what's the difference between regular A+ and premium A+. Let's start with that.
Yeah, so premium it's the next level. It has modules that are a bit just advanced. So it allows you to, examples of that are Q&A, like you can put questions and answers there. You can have a whole place where you can tag, like have an image and then tag the image with whatever the product is, if you have a wide variety of products, so people can click on them and get to see that specific SKU. And there's other modules that are more in-depth and elaborate comparison charts. So it's kind of like A+ content on steroids, like it's the next level. And the thing is that I find that you just have to realize it's not about the type of module you're using necessarily. It's about how you use it. And too many people want to try and use every module and every new premium A+ thing, and then they lose the actual purpose of why they're even having it. So that's where, just like any feature, any new gadget, people get super excited and then they actually make mistakes.
Yeah. So I want to get into how you use it the best way. But first, let's share with the audience, how do you get premium A+? Because it's not readily available for just anybody, right? So you have to be brand registered to get A+, but if you're brand registered, you don't automatically get premium A+, right?
Right. So you have to have all of the ASINs that you have in your catalog. They have to contain a published brand story, which is actually separate than the A+ content. So there's a feature that Amazon grants you, which is the brand story, which is just like we went over, it's nothing, you just put your brand story there, but they have it, what they call the brand story, separate than the A+ content. So that's number one. And then you also have to have at least 15 project submissions of A+ content. So, and a trick that I learned actually from you had mentioned it, and it's something that is very smart, is if you don't have 15 products, you could, with your A+ content, just change something slightly, save it, and do that 15 times. And it will actually grant you, that will qualify as having 15 different versions of it. So little trick there.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, don't do like 15 times on the same day.
No,
Because
don't do it. I would say over a few weeks.
yeah, yeah. Actually, you know, one of my clients said to me, we tested this. I mean, this is completely white hat TOS compliant way of doing it. So he said that he put on his Outlook every 3 days, he submitted a different version of the A+ he had. So
Smart.
every 3 days. So you need 15 of those. So that's 45 days already.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. That's a good
Yeah.
way.
And he did qualify. So he was over the moon. He said it was a new launch. So we launched it. It's about just over 2 months now. About 2 weeks ago, he qualified for Premium A+.
Perfect.
So just do it over time. Okay. So share with us, what is the best way to utilize Premium A+? So give us your side of it as an expert, the best way to get the most out of Premium A+.
Well, I think that you should treat it like what is going to best represent your story. I have seen too many listings that are over the top with their A+, and just one thing after the other, and it's overwhelming. So for each of the modules, you want to have one main communication you want to be giving. And just think with that, you don't want to pack everything in the world into every single module. You have to use them. So I think having initially, make sure you have that logo at the top, something that really shows visually, this is your brand. It's another chance to connect with the audience. So having a nice lifestyle photo with maybe your tagline at the top is a great way to start, and just puts people in, okay, so this is, like if it's a home brand and you're selling home decor, have something, a nice setting of maybe your main top selling product in a nice setting of that specific house setting, and maybe your tagline. It doesn't need to be the product that you're selling right there. It's just, it sets the tone. And for then under that, it's good to introduce further the product. You're not supposed to repeat images from your listing. So that's something that people need to think with when they're getting their photo shoots done, or they're having their 3D renderings done, or whatever way they're working with their design team. They have to make sure you have enough listing images, enough photography to have maybe a different angle, have it in use, have it a different person using it. Maybe like if you want to include diversity there. And that's where that second one can either be, I think if you have video content, that's a great place to put it, because you can add that the video modules into the premium. And then it's nice to have a comparison. People love comparing things. They're always thinking, okay, which one should I buy? Because there's so many products on Amazon, and it's good to show, well, what is different about yours? What angle? And this is where knowing your target audience super well and doing enough research into what's going to connect with them is important, because you want to highlight the thing that is going to make them go over the top and decide, okay, yours is the one for them. And that's where, like, getting into, okay, so if it's something where your target audience really cares about something being cheaper, then you got to showcase, okay, well, we actually have quality, but we make it more affordable. Or if it's all about, well, we make it into sustainable, then you want to show that. You just want to make sure that you know that core value that your target audience is going to resonate the most with. So that's where I think that it's really important to have that comparison. And that's what the cool thing about premium is, they have this really cool more enhanced comparison chart.
Yeah. So comparison chart is, can you make the comparison chart specific enough so that you are actually showing another ASIN together with the actual ASIN of the listing? Or do you want to be generic but still compare? What is the best way?
You know, it's a good question. And I think that it's something, it can get a little, I think, what's the word, where it gets a little animosity between you and the other brand. You know, if you do that, sometimes what I've seen and what I've helped to do is saying just others, saying others, and that just makes it so you're not getting into like this battle. But you could try testing, both ways. I think there was some rules that were put out, and I don't know the current status of if you're allowed to show specific ones. I would need to go back and look. But that's something that it's really up to the integrity, also what you feel comfortable doing as a brand.
Yeah. And also you can create a comparison chart across a range of products that you have. You may have different versions of it, right? So
yeah,
that's another way you can do.
Yeah, that's something that we do more often, is comparing also other products in the line. But I think it's something that's good to mention somewhere about what you do compared to others so that people see. And that's all part of positioning. It's what differentiates you from other brands.
Okay. So I can hear that comparison chart is a big deal, and you want to always get yourself out there compared to other listings rather than your own other versions of it. So as far as the comparison, what are some, because when you say comparison chart, it involves, first of all, your listing, and then right next to it you have others, maybe not specific, but you have different groups of things, but you have individual line items that you are comparing yourself for. Can you share with us some examples of what would make sense that people would connect with?
Sure. So let's say it's a kitchen product and you want to be comparing the quality of it. So maybe the ergonomic. So like, is it easy to hold? And then showing, yes, yours is easy to hold. And you can maybe show a picture of the handle. Let's just say we're taking a pot and you show the handle. It's easy to hold, and you show maybe pictures of other ones, not necessarily the competitors. You could, but showing just an image of some that's not easy to hold, and showing that aspect. You could show that it doesn't have it's stain, or it's resistant, what's it called, scratch resistant, and it doesn't scratch, the paint doesn't come off. That's could be a big thing for your target audience, is they're looking for something that's not going to be harmful to their kids and their family when they're cooking. So this is why it really depends on the product itself. It's the things that you could have mentioned in your listing, but you're just maybe reiterating those. The points that you don't want to repeat in the A+ and the listing, and that Amazon says not to, it's against their terms of service, is the photos themselves. So that's where you can still repeat key things that are really important to your target audience. And the best way to find those things is to go into competitors' reviews, look at the bad reviews and look at the good reviews, and see what are the people saying they don't like about it, and what are the people saying they do like about it. Because that those are the main, and if you see that repeated a lot, that that's a big pain point these people have related to this specific product. Now, obviously, if your product then doesn't solve those problems that these people say that they don't like, don't lie about it, because it's just going to get you in the bad position. But you got to make sure that you are doing your research so that you're saying things that are going to really connect and solve the problems if it genuinely does.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is, I had a guest the other day. It's a little bit different than what you're talking about, but it's the same type of thing. We were talking about getting reviews, and then he
Mm.
said, well, Vine program is one of those that you have to enroll. He says, however, keep this in mind. If you have a good product, you're going to get a lot of good reviews. But if you have a bad product, that's the easiest way to get slammed, right? So,
Yes.
because when you enroll in the Vine program with a substandard product, people are going to buy it. It doesn't cost them anything for the purpose of reviewing, and they're going to slam you. So it's the same thing with the comparison. If you make sure that you are good about the things that you're comparing to, otherwise people will see through it. So you don't want to mistake. So I have another on the comparison chart, because comparison chart is key, and we are always comparing. So you compare experience, you compare product, whatever. So how do you make yourself stand out in a comparison chart when competition is cheaper than?
That's where the values come into play. And there's going to be people who only want something cheaper. They don't care about the quality. And there's going to be people who do care about the quality. So you have to define, well, who are those people and why do they care? What is going to be that? And this is going to be, yes, you can use the comparison chart for that, but this is going to be about making your brand human and making it very relatable to them. And that's the importance of the story. You can't just write some story that's just like, we love to help people, we are amazing. That's just very, it's surface level, it's artificial. It needs to be something that is actually meaningful. It's why the person started the brand, but it makes them really connect with you as opposed to the hundreds of other brands out there. So it's going to be unique to you. You have to find that. What is that uniqueness?
Yeah. Well, I give you an example of what we did with a client. So they sell floor kits. So if you have a garage and it's beat up and then you want to redo it, so they sell an epoxy floor kit. So for garages and things like that. So they sell, it's a big kit. So first of all, when we did our research, we found that there aren't really any kits. All they sell is the epoxy itself. And then they sell it in terms of how much it's going to cover. What's the coverage? So what we did, and just as to get a sense of why this comparison was tough for us to put together, the most expensive epoxy listing was about $200. The cheapest that my client was selling for was $450.
Ooh.
So it's more than double. And in fact, they had two sizes. One was about $450. The other one was almost $700. So we created a comparison chart. And we're trying to figure out how, and I'm thinking, okay, how we're gonna make ours look cheaper, right?
Yeah.
It's very tough. And then what we ended up doing was we translated the price per square foot.
That's smart.
And of course, by far, our product was much better. So even though they were paying $200, they were getting, I don't know, about 100 square foot maybe out of it. Plus they had to get everything else. Ours was a kit that covered 300 square foot, and it had everything included in it. So, and then that value plus the convenience, so that came down. So that came down to obviously a much cheaper price. So what you said is exactly the case. And guess what? They are doing very well. And we were all nervous, $700 item, $400+ item. How many are we going to sell per day? Their sell-through rate is going up and up and up every day. And this is a summer item because people don't like to do anything in the winter with their garages. It's cold.
Yeah.
It's so we are curious to see what happens in the summer.
Oh, exciting. That's great.
Yeah. So, okay. So we've covered your brand story in the Premium A Plus. We've covered most important that I learned from you is don't go crazy trying to use all the modules. Just have one single focus on what it is that you're trying to tell.
Mhm.
And the other thing is make use of the comparison chart, make use of the video. And the other thing that I heard you mention is you can have different products and then you can click on those different products, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so it's this cool interactive hover hotspot. So what it does is it lets you hover over it, and then you can see what the other products are. So I like this because if you are selling a line of products, people can get a sense of what they are. Now, in the comparison charts, also if you're comparing your own products, you can have it click, like each one is a clickable ASIN that goes to that product too. And that's what I also like about the interactive one is it's not just like check out our other products. It's like, here, you can see all of them. You can hover over them and see what the actual listings are. So that's a cool one that is usable. And I would suggest, I know that you can use up to, I believe it's 7 modules now. I would need to verify because they changed it, but I like to not use more than 6 because I just think it's just overwhelming otherwise.
You're talking about the premium or the regular? Premium.
Either. Yeah. I just, for the modules, I just would suggest not using more than too many.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the idea is to communicate a message. It's not just fill up the empty space, right? So people will look at it. Plus, if you're using pictures, they don't get indexed. So if you've got all kinds of things crowded, what kind of a story are you telling? Since it has no indexing going on with just using pictures. I totally get it. So I know Premium A Plus is fairly new and there's all kinds of claims going on. Are you familiar with any of the metrics that Premium A Plus impacts? So Amazon claims it increases your conversion by X%. Or can you share with us anything that you may have?
Yeah. Now I've seen that what Amazon's put out is that it can increase between 3 to 10% your conversion rates. Now I've seen A+ content do that, whether it's premium or not. And I think that premium I think it could bump it up by a few conversion percentages for sure, because if you're using it correctly. Now, also the thing that is really, and we haven't talked about this, but I've seen the conversion rates go even higher when you have the brand story correct, the listing images correct, and then your storefront. So all of them work together. I think when you have them all very well aligned, the branding looks consistent. It's also the messaging is consistent and the flow of the A+ is congruent. It is a nice big package it helps overall. So that's what I've seen.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the combination of things where your storefront, your brand story, and your A+, and then from your listing linking back to your storefront.
Yeah.
That supports the kind of listings. And then I had a guest and he shared something with us that I found very smart. What he did was they selectively decided what are we going to leverage our storefront for? And that was specific to the listings that they had. And then they were, of course, it was a listing with a bunch of variations, and variations not necessarily like small, medium, large variation, but like a bundle this, bundle that. And so what they did, they linked from their brand story to their storefront, but their storefront was designed as an upsell vehicle
Oh,
for that
smart.
listing.
That's
So
smart.
yeah, I mean, I thought, well, that's great because they are not just. I mean, I call this not taking prisoners. So I mean, they obviously captured the visitor, brought them to the listing, and from the listing, they are seeing the brand story with the A+, and right there's the link to link back to the storefront. And then when they
Smart.
go to the storefront, what they are seeing is completely relevant to what they were just shopping for, except there's a few other things there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that for sure. And I've seen that work too, where it's obviously it works great when you sell something that's in a specific niche. It's all lines up together where they go to the storefront and it shows the product they're talking about in a photo with another product that works with it. And then they can see, oh wow, this looks good with this, which can also be used in the A+ content too, showing multiple of your products all working together.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, like in a kitchen setting or a baby products or things of that nature that make sense together.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Lauren, this was great. So, I mean, I love talking this kind of subject. So before we started recording, we were talking about, me recording these episodes and, having so many of them in one day. And I never get bored. I mean, the conversation we have is very enjoyable.
Great.
So thank you. This was great business talk. So now we want to get to know you a little bit. So tell us, I like to always learn the life experiences of my guests. So tell us, where did you grow up and give us your beginnings?
Oh, thank you, Nick. So I grew up in Los Angeles. I've always been into art and creating. I submitted a design for a greeting card when I was 6 years old to the LA Times and got it published there. So that's kind of I've always been into art and creating. And I went to school originally for character animation, and I got into illustration and graphic design instead. And then, I was working in-house as a designer, and then I moved up to creative director, worked on some awesome projects, won some awards there, which was great. Decided to start a family and decided to go on my own. And my husband and I created Principium Studio 7 years ago now. And we decided to choose working in the Amazon space because we saw that there were so many people who needed help and needed to navigate this world. And we saw our expertise and creativity could lend hands to help sellers sell much more of their products. So in a nutshell, that's how the story went.
So that's a nice bio, but I'm not interested in your bio as much as I'm interested in your drivers. What drives you in life? So
Okay.
I mean, obviously, being published at the age of 6, that's a big deal. So what I want to know is how did that come about? I mean, were you born with that? I mean, right out of the gate, so you are kind of creating stuff, or was it nurtured, or how was it supported and later on? So those are the experiences I'm interested
I
in.
see. Okay, fine. I'll dig a little deeper. So, my grandpa on my mother's side was an engineer, but an architect. He had the drawing skills in him. My mom was a suppressed artist, meaning she suppressed herself in terms of would never actually do anything about it, but she could draw and paint. I saw pictures of her that were incredible when she was 16, but for some reason she never pursued it. And my aunt, her sister, was an interior decorator. So art has kind of been, or creativity has, I guess, been always in the family. And then my mom, at a young age, when I was young, saw that I was really into drawing and creating. So she got me an art class when I was 4. And that from there, it just started to develop more and more. And I knew at a very young age I want to do this for my life. I don't want to be anything but something that's creating. And I wanted to create new worlds, and I've always been obsessed with Disney. I admire Walt Disney, what he created, and his inspiration for young kids, creating the future, dreaming the future. That's something that always inspired me. So I wanted to work for Disney. I much prefer Walt's take on things as opposed to now. So I never ended up going the route of working at Disney. We've actually worked on projects with them, but I haven't actually worked there. And so that's the driving thing has always been just creating new worlds, creating. And that's why I love to paint on my spare time, because I love to just continue creating as much as I can.
So I heard you mention your mother suppressing herself. So how much of an impact did that make on you?
I never knew she was really an artist until later. And I didn't, it kind of was awkward that she never took it further, but I felt, I guess, maybe she saw that she had suppressed herself, and she realized that she wanted to help me nurture it as opposed to myself crushing my own creativity, which I really appreciate that she did. And she saw that in me. My father also was very, very influential in helping me, but I think that's something that I benefited from, was her not wanting to make the same mistake that she made for herself.
And when you realized that she had suppressed herself, how far were you into your growing, being good, or knowing that you are good? What age was?
I was a teenager. I was going through old sketchbooks in St. Louis, where she grew up. I was looking at paintings of hers in the basement of my grandma's house, and I was shocked. And I asked her, like, what? I didn't know you did this. And she said, yeah, whatever. It's not that good. And I was like, what? She just made it awkward. So I wasn't really able to get into it, because it seemed like a conversation she really didn't want to go there. So I guess I was always the continuation of what she wished she had done, in a way. So it's interesting. My aunt, however, she went to school for interior decoration, and then she did make a career out of it. So that's something that at least one of them took it.
Yeah. This almost is like the old movie, the two kids, now grown woman, and the son, married man, Bridges of the Madison County.
Oh yeah, I never saw that movie. I know what you're talking about, though, but I never saw it myself.
Yeah, because that's what she died, and then they go to her place and they discover these journals, her diaries, and they're reading the diaries. In these diaries, she obviously put everything down, and she talks about this affair that was very short affair, but very significant, and they're reading it, and then they get all upset. How did our mother do this? And we had no idea. And then as they read through it, they realize how much she felt strongly, how strongly she felt for the man, and the kind of sacrifices she made, and then they of course develop complete compassion for her, and by the end of it, they love the guy she had an of course they don't get to see, but of course you see. I mean, it's a great movie. It's one of the it's as soon as you mentioned, I didn't know, I just discovered it's like this. It's exactly like that.
That's so funny. Yeah, I'll have to see that movie. I remember when it came out, and I just never watched it. I think I was young for that kind of type of movie at that time, but I always heard it was a very good one. So I will take a look at that.
It's great acting, and you know who's in it. So it's Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep. So great music also. I'm surprised you haven't seen it because usually that movie is loved by most ladies.
And I'm a romantic comedies or romantic movies are top of my list. So I definitely,
You're gonna love this.
yeah.
You're gonna love this.
Okay,
And
I'll watch
line.
it.
There is a line in that movie so significant. I actually had to go find the script for the movie just to pull out that line so that I could
Wow.
memorize. I'm not gonna tell you, but it's a great line, and it's a philosophy that we go through life. I would highly recommend. You'll love it. I have no doubt. You'll love it.
Great.
This was great, Lauren. I really enjoyed the conversation. Your background and your discovery about your mother it's significant. So tell us, how can people contact you? Give us your contact information.
Sure. Thank you. So Principium Studio is our website, and we are offering free listing reviews. If anyone would like to send an email, you can email myself, Lauren, at principiumstudio.com or support@principiumstudio.com. So that's how the best way. And we post blogs periodically. We're not really big on social media very much. So the best way is just to contact us specifically there.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. I'm sure you'll hear from people, and it's a great conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate your time and everything you're doing to help sellers. It's amazing what your podcast has so much value. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. You're very kind. And this brings us to the end of another episode, and I'll see you on the next one.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the episode, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too.